All right, welcome. This is Underground Living. We have a great guest today, Joseph from Survival Living. Sorry, it took me a second. And he's got some pretty interesting videos on YouTube and some other stuff that he's been doing. I'm really excited to get to know him. So just for you who are joining our channel and are new, Underground Living, yes, we are renovating a bunker, but it's really not necessarily about living underground, but more about, spaces that are alternative, lifestyles that are alternative, and that people just don't know about. So we're excited to get to know other people and, what they're doing. And we're excited to have Joseph. So Joseph, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your channel and maybe how you got started.
All right. Well, definitely appreciate you having me on here. Um, so with the channel, we mainly focus on prepping and outdoor survival. Now, on that channel, we everything from natural disasters to man-made disasters is what we try to prepare for and tell other people to prepare for. Now, that could be anything from a hurricane, earthquake to global conflict or anything like that. You need to have supplies stored up and know how to use them and store them correctly. That we always have things on hand. As far as outdoor survival, that's what we're really pushing on here lately. I'm actually scheduled for September 9th. I'm going to Ohio. I'm doing a survival course for Self-Reliance Outfitters, the Dave Canterbury course. I'll be taking their one step down below the advanced intermediate course because that's a requirement before you take the advanced. So it'd be a 4-day, 3-night thing. Spent most of my life outdoors. I was a freight train rider for a year and a half. That's not Amtrak. I'm talking about actual freight, actual hobo style. Don't do it. It is a misdemeanor charge if you get caught. So just don't do it. But yeah, it was very interesting. I got to put a lot of things to the test with the channel. I mean, right now you're talking about alternative living, situations. We are living in a 6x12 cargo trailer. This is something I renovated, basically tore out, insulated up, and we're running solar. We have an actual toilet that flushes. We got running water. We got a fold down bed. This thing here is actually for us when we head to Wyoming. We were supposed to be going last year, and we've been a spindle on our wheel, so we had to stop here. We're outside of Panama City, Florida right now, and we had to repair that. Then the whole pandemic hit, so that locked down everything. Then lumber prices blew up. So right now we are still. I work 2 jobs right now, plus YouTube, and as you know, social media stuff is a full-time job. Um, so our plan is right now we're going to be heading to Arizona because I'm a welder by trade. I've been welding
Okay.
for a long time, and we're going to go to Arizona. I used to work out there. Probably going to work in the copper mines again, doing maintenance type of work. And then once the lumber prices drop, hopefully back to where it was, we're heading to Wyoming. We have 40 acres up there. And we're
Wow.
going to be living in the 6x12 trailer while we build our first part of a bunkhouse. It's going to be our homestead. And it's out of the way of everything. It's just peaceful out there. The winter's brutal. I've lived out there before, worked out there before. But when it goes dark outside, the sky's amazing. You see everything. I mean, there's no ambient lights falling through. There's some big wolves and there is bear out there, but hey, it's free food, right?
So yeah, as long as you're not it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So right now, a few questions there. Are you doing welding right now?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Last year I was working as an iron worker and I was really overweight. I had 2 surgeries 2 years ago. I had a torn rotator cuff and a meniscus surgery I had to go through. So I was 248 pounds. I was big. I have finally slimmed down. I am 189, 186.6. And I think my last video is showing people how to build an outdoor gym just to get back in shape because your body is very important. Now, I'm not a health nut by all means. I dip, I smoke, I drink coffee, but having your body in better shape than what it is definitely a key thing. Yeah, I'm certified welder, but my certs have expired. So no matter where I go, I just have to recertify it again, take the test again.
Gotcha. Some of my best friends have been welders, so I had a friend, and he did nuclear power plant welding,
Mhm.
and you've got to be like the best to do that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Like they X-ray it, they make sure you don't have any, you know,
Yeah. I was out there in
mistakes
North
or anything.
Dakota. Yeah, I was out in North Dakota back in 2014, working for a company that serviced Sunwell Service and Basic Energy, working on all the derricks for the fracking. And that there, Magnaflux, everything, X-ray. It's cold up there. It really is. Would weld for about 15 minutes and run back to the truck.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, once I've been doing it for so long, it's practice and technique, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. As long as you're willing to listen to somebody that has experience and say, hey, you need to do it this way. And I was wrong in that when I was, 18, 19 years old. I looked at him like, yeah, well, I'm pretty good. I just got a welding school. Yeah, well, so has everybody else.
Yeah, yeah. I actually just got a small welder, so I'm excited to get it out and practice because that's what I need. I need practice. I wouldn't say like I know everything. Certainly, my friend who was the nuclear welder taught me a bunch of stuff, but I need to just pull it out and start welding stuff. So anyway, I got a small one, like one of those little tiny portable ones. It'll do 110 and 220.
Okay.
And I also figure with the stuff that I might end up having to weld, a small one might be nice because, if I got to get up on scaffolding or something, it's nice to, bring it
Yeah.
up with me instead of having to lift
Well,
some big
having the
heavy thing.
ability to do 220, yeah, that's definitely. I've seen a lot of 110, what we call cracker boxes, and they just don't have the penetration. But since you have one that actually does 220, you probably was it stick welder or MIG?
To stick.
It's a stick. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. As long as you got a good stick, I've been busting rods for many years. That was the first thing I had to get certified in, and they keep on saying stick welding is going to be expired. It's not. You need us out there welding iron and all the time up in the steel. So
Yeah, and there's benefits to stick. Like if you're doing other like sometimes like if you're using gas or other things, like sometimes it's not appropriate to use it indoors or other things like
mm.
that, where stick is probably a little bit more indoor friendly. I mean, there's
Well, it's
still
definitely it's smoky, and you
yeah,
get a
yeah.
60-10 rod going. It produces a lot of smoke.
No,
Uh,
it's not perfect. I mean, obviously,
yeah,
like you want to ventilate, but like it's much better than some of the other ones, like doing indoor with where they're pumping gas in and stuff like that. But yeah, anyway, we'll see. I mean, again, I'm not an expert. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm excited to like practice. And I just got a cheap one, so like I took
hmm
advantage of Prime Day and ordered some. It is also right after Father's Day, so I felt like I could justify it a little bit, and ordered something because I'm like I need to do it more to get
yeah.
better. So anyway,
Oh yeah, I took advantage of Prime Day too. Bought a whole bunch of new survival gear and dry bags and stuff. And as far as knowing everything, I know enough just to keep myself in trouble. So
Yeah, yeah. So like you said, I mean you were like grew up liking the outdoors. What do you think, or do you remember a point when you thought, I need to prepare more. I need to like learn some survival skills, or I mean, was there a moment that kind of, I don't know,
yeah,
started worrying you about stuff, or stuff started worrying you?
yeah. I'm 42 now, and back when the whole Y2K thing happened, we lived in North Carolina. I was raised in North Carolina. We lived right in the foothills of the mountains, and when Y2K happened, that's when it really woke us up. We started looking at things, but everything was fine. But most of our lifestyle was really prepper minded.
Well,
We
you were pretty young at that age. Like, I mean, you were like 20s, right? So like you were pretty
sure,
young for
yeah, I was still
42.
young. Yeah, yeah, I'm 42 now, and most of our ways, prep in mind is pretty much how we lived out there. We stored water because we always had ice storms. We stored food. We canned. We dehydrated. Would hunt. Would always have deep freezers. Um, Nowadays, yeah, I went more into more self-reliance, like our solar generator, our solar power, solar generators, our wind turbines, wood stoves, just having alternate sources to create power and cook and heat. Also down there in Florida, air condition. It takes a lot. You can run a window unit air condition on solar. We have it in our trailer. It's a 6x12 trailer with an air conditioning unit out the back. But we
Hmm.
can run it during the daytime. We can run it all day. But at night, due to our limited space with battery banks, we get about 4 hours, and that's it. So until we build that battery bank up, we're just kind of limited on that. But yeah, it was definitely Y2K. Just the fact that, and a lot of preppers, including myself, we get into the conspiracy forums kind of. But unlike others, thankfully there's a lot of them like me. We want to see documentation on stuff. We don't want to just hear a rumor and run with it. We want to actually look at paperwork saying this is going on or this could happen. So yeah, I can't say I'm a prepper, but don't watch conspiracy stuff because there's some interesting things out there, and you go, yeah, they're talking about shutting down the power. What I need to keep my power going.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I think you hear that a lot in that community about, conspiracies. I think a lot of people dismiss um, preppers because, they're kind of attracted to these conspiracies. But I think
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, it makes rational sense in my mind that if you're going to be preparing for something or for some potential disaster, you're going to be a little vigilant in saying, well, what could happen? Right. And if
Yes.
you're looking for
Yeah.
what could happen, you're looking at possibilities, then that kind of opens your mind up to say, oh, okay, are there, you know, could these conspiracy type things be true? Could those happen? And um, I once heard a quote from Tom Woods, and he said that he felt, this is his quote, not me attributing this to myself, but he said, um, it's not that we necessarily believe that there's like some cabal of men in a dark room smoking cigars, uh, coming up with like trying to plan the world, but he felt like the result would be the same whether they are or not.
Yeah.
So I think that really feeds into that idea is, what, if you're going to be prepared, you're going to consider possibilities, um, whether they're true or not, you kind of still want to be aware of them and
Hmm.
prepare for them, like whether
Yeah.
and if you believe in them, that's one thing, but even if you don't believe in them or you're not sure whether they're true or not, you would at least consider them because you're trying to prepare for a
Yeah.
potential negative outcome. And I think also from me talking with a lot of people who are into prepping, a lot of them say, we hope it doesn't happen. Like that's always the stance. I hope none of this ever happens. I hope, whatever they think could happen, like we don't want that to happen. That's not our hope. Or, but if it does, we do want to be ready for it. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
It does make sense. And if I can hit on that just a little bit, I have seen, being a YouTuber, I've seen the comments. So I can't wait for the Great Reset. I've lived out of my backpack for a year and a half as a train rider. It's not easy. Okay. And I've got a lot of outdoor survival skills, and that doesn't even consider, if technically they split up bushcraft and prepping on social media for some reason. I think they should actually go hand in hand. You should be able to work with your hands and survive. It's nice to have prepping items, makes your job much easier. But yeah, I see it all the time about, well, I can't wait for the Great Reset. I don't want people passing away. I would love for my kids to have a great life. My family continue on, not just digging in the dirt. I mean, sure, they say it's a simple way of life going back to the old ways. No, it's not. Homesteading is very difficult. Last season, I was running a garden showing people how to grow seeds, grow plants to seed so you can store them and correctly and reuse them next year. That's a lot of work when you're working a job. Well, if it's a Great Reset, you still got to get firewood, run patrols for protection on all your equipment. You're doing all the maintenance yourself on everything because nothing's open. There's nothing around. So your hours of the day have just really gotten very small for all the jobs you have to do. No, I mean, yeah, I have seen those that won't be in right now. I don't. I want to be prepared for as much as possible. And thankfully, most scenarios, your preps go hand in hand with each scenario. Most disasters, you require food, water purification, storage of water, medical equipment, and it goes to the same thing. I mean, like nuclear fallout. There's some different things you have to do, but a lot of your preps are still the same. You know, you have to know windage and everything else, which way the wind is blowing, and if you're safe in that area, when it's safe to leave. You don't want to be running around with a gas mask on and a hazmat suit saying, I'm protected. This is a $300 such and such. You might be, but I'm not about to run into a dust cloud of radioactive material just to be doing it, just so I can prove a point that my $400 suit is top of the line. You know, I mean, there's some that really just want it because they have the gear. We use our gear. We use our food. We have long-term food storage, which is the 25-year shelf life foods, but we don't have a lot of that. All right, that stuff's expensive. We always pushed on normal foods, canned goods, dry goods, your beans, your rice, your pastas, and get up to a 2-year supply of that. This is normal food that you normally eat. Of course, you do want fresh vegetables, fresh meat. You don't just eat canned goods all the time because it's unhealthy over a long period of time. But the more that you use that, and it's a normal rotational stock, no matter what, you've got 2 years supply of food at hand, or some people can only do 6 months, but that's still better than everything getting shut off and you're going, I can't do anything. It's just like Seattle right now, that heat wave they have. Their stores, I've been looking at photos all morning. Their stores, their meat department, dairy, the vegetable aisles, all that stuff, that heat wave is surpassing their air conditioning unit. They had to get rid of it all. So if you're like a typical American that only has 3 days worth of food in your house and you went to the grocery store today, well, hopefully that woke you up to go, you know what, even $5 a week, I can get a couple cans of food and it lasts for many years. There's a big debate on Best Buy and expiration dates. The Best Buy on a can is just so, it's the best tasting at the time. And it's for the seller to, buy more stuff. The expiration date is an expiration date. Now, there's plenty of people out there that says, well, I've eaten one 20 years past such and such. Awesome for you. I'm not about to. You got to be careful how you store this stuff. It has to be regulated by temperature. If you got a bunch of food sitting out in an outside shed and there's no air conditioning unit and the fluctuation of the temperature every season, that stuff's not going to be good. You want botulism or whatever. There's going to be some nasty stuff going on there. So just, work on small if you have to. $5 a week, at least you've got something. And if it's not the full blown, what we call SHTF, and it's just a hurricane, like down here in Florida, we get a bunch of them. It's a couple of days, no power, month. When Michael came through here in Panama City area, my dad and brother was here. I was outside of Orlando. They didn't have anything for a month. All right. Luckily, they keep supplies and stuff like that. And one of the emergency services, FEMA, had come in. My brother was filling up his generator with his gas jugs, diesels. Came in and asked if he had fuel. Not how you doing. You got fuel in those cans. Luckily for my brother, he done emptied them all. But just be on the safe side. Have stuff. Have it hidden. Don't have a closet full of food in case somebody does knock on your door. Space it out. I mean, we show burying food in survival buckets, food caches, it's not too far, bug out locations and stuff like that. And if you're not used to the outdoors, don't have the idea that you're going to shove food in a backpack with your survival knife from Rambo and run out in the woods, because your survival chances are low unless you've been out there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally. And I think also, sometimes, people think that prepping is just all about natural disasters, huge things. I mean, we were kind of raised. I'm definitely was. It sounds like you were raised like with this sort of prepping already. Like you kind of grew up with that.
Yeah.
I think as far as we got was we had food storage. My parents had food storage. So we have food storage, and I've, as an entrepreneur, because I have a business that I started, there were times when I was starting out where we used that, right? Like there's personal disasters too that are very that just happened to you, where you're like, well, you know what? I don't have enough money to go to the grocery store, and I need something. So, it's not all, world's going to end, apocalyptic stuff, it can also be very personal, because stuff happens, maybe, I've had heart surgery, right? And there were times when I wasn't working for several months after that heart surgery. So, it's good to have money stored up and other things, just so that you can get through those types of even personal disasters as well.
Absolutely. Like I said, when I was injured, I was on a workman's comp for over a year. It took over a year to do all the surgeries and physical therapy. That was 62% of my normal wage. If we didn't have money put back, and we always tell people to have financial gold, silver, stuff like that. I'm not saying go buy everything in gold and silver, because when everything first happens, it might not be, like you said, a full blown thing. It could be a localized event or something directly at you. I had cash on hand. We had food that we were able to eat off. It helped offset. We had to get into our preps. I mean, we were in bad shape. My wife and I were like, thankful we have food put back, because right now we can't afford to pay rent and also go over here and go to the grocery store. I mean, we were shopping at the Dollar Tree and Save a Lot and stuff like that, the low budget stuff. But yeah, I had a house fire back in 2012, I think it was. I had all my preps, the large majority in my basement. That was my war room. Yeah, I lost everything that was in there. I got my kids out, got my girlfriend at the time out. I even got the dog out somehow. I don't know how I got him, but I knocked the front window out and grabbed him. He was right there just looking at us. But yeah, we lost everything in the house. That was out in Oregon. So I've traveled all over the place, especially with welding. I mean, I'm wherever you go. Sometimes you're there for a year. Sometimes you're doing shutdown jobs, and it's only for like 4 months. But yeah, just your normal disaster, a car wreck. If a car wreck right now, yeah, your insurance will cover you for a while. But who else is going to be paying your bills right now if you don't have money put back? Now, I'm saying you're going to have, $300,000 in the bank, but you need to have something in case you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned that you're building you're going to build a place out in Arizona. I'd love to hear more. Like, what do you think? Are you going to do another shipping container, or what are your plans for that?
It's in Wyoming. We're going to go to
sorry.
Arizona. I'm going to go weld out in Arizona, because
Gotcha.
Right here where I'm at, Bay County, Florida, the only things here is Eastern Shipyard. And I worked out there many years ago, and they still don't pay anything. So I made more money in Arizona. And so once my job that I'm currently working, it's a seasonal job. Once it's done, the wife and I, we're going to hook up the trailer. We're going to go out there. When we go to Wyoming, though, I looked into shipping containers. Our property is about 32 miles of cattle road. So it's hard for my Tahoe and 4-wheel drive to get through that sucker. So we're not doing shipping containers. Everything's going to be lumber. We went out there 2 years ago when we bought it, and we put a septic in, leach field. This is all done by hand. This is everything I did. We don't have anybody on property out there. And we've got 120 gallon cistern right now. Of course, I'm going to need more cisterns, because the wells, they got a monopoly on the wells out there. There's only like 2 big rig companies, and it's going to be like $15,000 for them to do it. So we're going to be using cisterns to begin with, just water collection to begin with. I'm going to try doing a shallow well first, just something I got to purify out. And we'll go from there as far as water. The first 2 years, we'll be able to truck in water. There's a location we can go to, fill up and bring it in. But to be more self-sufficient, we've got to drill.
All right. So nothing off the wall like Cobb or
No
rammed earth or something crazy like that. Just
nothing like that. We're gonna build our bunkhouse first. It's gonna be about 4 times bigger than what our trailer is right now. And it does. It gets cramped. Everything has to be routine. It really does. But once we get the first part of the bunkhouse, we'll be able to build onto it every year. And of course, we're going to have greenhouses and things like that. And it's not the little plastic sheeting greenhouses, because the winter there in Wyoming is real rough. The wind is always blowing. That's why we have the wind turbines. Our walls are going to have to be, we have to be 7 inches thick. I mean, they can't just use a regular 2x4. We have to use 2x6s just to fill it up. We got the wood stove, we got electric heat because we have the solar. So, you know, we got our fuel generators and stuff like that. That way we can always produce heat and stuff. But yeah, I mean, my wife, she's a Florida girl. She's from Florida. She was raised on the beach. The interesting projects are morale. I mean, we got DVDs, movies downloaded, movie, music and stuff like that. But what I want to do is build her a little oasis indoors, and little waterway and everything there that reminds her of the beach. And it can be done. It just takes time. I mean, you know, everything takes time.
Yeah.
That way we don't have a shining incident out there.
Yeah. So you were saying that you know, that it can be hard, I think, to get significant others, to get family on board. And I'm actually really fortunate because my wife's been on board. If you know, people ask us if we're preppers, I would say she's more of a prepper than I am, and that. However, that being said, it's hard not to have a bunker and think about preparing, right? Because it's like you'd hate for something to happen, and you're like, oh, you know, I was 95% of the way there, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you know, because it's a pretty cool facility. We've got everything's EMP shielded, and I've had people say, well, you know, couldn't you cut out a window in the top? And I'm like, yeah, but that would really kind of ruin the integrity of the bunker, and so I
Yeah.
do that.
I agree with you on that.
So,
You said EMP shielding. Yeah, we do our best for that too on all of our small electronics, our solar and stuff. We got up with a company, actual EMP Shield. I think they're out of Kansas, if I remember correctly. And we joined their affiliate programming and stuff like that. And that's actually what we use on our truck and also our solar grid for our trailer. Of course, we keep a lot of things in our own homemade Faraday boxes, basically a lot of aluminum foil. But I don't even know if they actually work very well. They work great against radio transmissions, but I don't know about an EMP blast itself.
How do you test it, right?
Yeah, I can do the radio trick. Okay, it works against the radio, but I don't know about anything else.
Yeah, I've had
But
people ask me, because I'm like, my whole bunker is EMP shielded, but like, they're like, have you tested it? And I'm like, you know, I don't get a signal down here. I mean, that's about as far as my testing can go. I don't know how else to test it. So,
but yeah, you're right about spouses. I was very fortunate with mine. My wife, we've been married for fixing to be 3 years in October. I told her straight out, you know, I prepare for things. And she looked and says, basically, you trying to take care of your family, make sure there's got security and always food, right? I'm like, yeah. She says, perfect. You know, I mean, some people just need that extra security. It's not like she's needy or anything, but she wanted somebody that actually put the family first before anything else. I mean, yeah, sure, I do some stupid stuff, but you know, I went and bought a whole bunch of flint rock. But you know, it is what it is. I was practicing my flint and steel, so I needed to go buy some.
There's definitely worse habits you could have, for sure.
Exactly. And I think that what she agrees with that on that end too.
Yeah. So, tell us about your YouTube channel. Like what kind of things, you know, for people that might be following us, and you know, we definitely wanted to go check out your YouTube channel, Survival Living. What are they going to find there? What kind of things will they find when they go and check it out?
Well, you usually see me messing up. No, actually, though, I take it very seriously. I do joke around a lot on the channel just because prepping does get ingrained in you, and everyone's always serious and all the time, which it should be serious, but you need to relax a little bit and have a little bit of fun. But we do once a week, we do a weekly prep series, and basically it's me going to the store. I don't take you into the store because most stores don't let you film and they give you a bunch of grief. They already recognize who I am. Usually I go to local Walmart or something like that, and we purchase things that are going in our prep stash, right? Food, water filters, things like that. And I go over that every week. We show a big buy. We do our solar. We've done our complete tear down, build up on the solar step by step on how we power everything there. Most of those parts we've had to purchase through Amazon. You know, it's just, they're not the top end solar equipment, but they work very well. So we go over solar, we go over traps, snares, things like that for outdoor survival.
So you set up all
Fire
your own,
starter.
did you set up all your own solar?
Yes, yeah, I did everything. We did a solar is a two-part series, Solar 101, I believe the name of it was. And we got a playlist called Off Grid Power, and it started at the very beginning when I first started with my first battery, and it was a very sad solar grid. But then we built it up, and we went ahead and did a complete breakdown on that. So a lot of people get worried when they think about solar. It's actually not difficult to figure out.
How
You just
big's
got to
your,
figure out how much power.
yeah, how big's your array, and how about your battery bank?
Okay, our battery bank is 560 amp hours right now in the trailer. We have more on standby in our storage facility, which I won't give the location, but it's not. I can walk it if I need to.
Mm-hmm.
Our solar grid, we have 500 watts on top of our trailer currently. We've got an additional 1,000 in storage, and those are wrapped up with the do-it-yourself Faraday cages.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't have. We're on family's property, so I'm not going to sit there and build an array and stuff like that. One of my family members that own the property, they had put up a solar array for one of those solar companies. And when I got down here and took a look at it, I said, "You're not getting power. The power's out. This is just a solar farm." And sure enough, it's just a solar farm. They don't get any power from that thing. Also with solar, we go over water purification, how to purify water. We show you how to make your own filters. We go over other filters, Life Straws, Sawyer Minis, and whichever ones we can get hold of, because water is very important. Water storage, food storage. I did do one how to skin out a snake and eat it.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't get many views. A lot of people didn't like that one because it was very graphic. But I had so many questions. I want to see you do something. Okay. So I went and did that, and a lot of people did not like that one, but I had to show it to actually, show you the stuff.
Yeah.
And we've been pushing real hard with our outdoor survival. Um, Not here to talk bad about anybody or anything like that, but I really want to set myself apart from a lot of stuff that's on social media, because there's a lot that like to tell you and talk to you, but they can't do it themselves. They can't show you. So I'd rather teach you by showing you. Even when I mess up, I'll leave it in, use it as a blooper reel. But I want to show you what I'm talking about so you can actually learn. Most people learn better by actual visual aid. So when you're showing how to gut something, you kind of need to show exactly what it is. So with the survival course that we're fixing to do, I've taken those many times. This is the first time I ever went through them. It was an expensive course. I mean, the course itself was $450, and you had to buy specific gear requirements. So with between the motels and the travel and everything, spent about $1,200 for this.
Yeah.
So just to get that certification and that patch, and I think it will help push that. Hey, all right, this guy actually knows what he's talking about, because here's his actual international recognized survival course he went and took and passed. Which, yeah, I'm jumping the gun on that one. I haven't passed it yet because I got to wait till September. But yeah, I'm pretty confident in myself. But not an ego. I've lived it. I've had to do it. So I've been working real hard on bow drills, showing people how to do bow drill, flint and steel fires, everything I could think of that you would need to live outdoors. We try to cover that. Now, do I recommend people run out to the woods? No, absolutely not. Because unfortunately, during a large event, there's going to be a lot of people that try that, and the game is just not around you. Unless you're like in Wyoming, we got game everywhere, and it's going to be hard to actually walk towards where we are. And if you try, I can see you 3 miles off. It's flat. It's all prairie out there. We're in the Continental Divide is where our property's at, so I can see for miles around. But as a prepper, you kind of look at what are you going to do in that situation? Are you going to help people, or are you going to drop people? And that's something I tell everybody, you're going to have to make a more decision on your end. That's going to have to be up to you. Myself, my family comes first. Okay. Now, does it mean I'm going to be trying to help? Well, it depends on the scenario. Everything's different. If everything's going off at one point in time, right now, I'm trying to safeguard my family first. During the rebuild process, yeah, I'll be there trying to help, but only as long as security's there for my family first.
Yeah. Yeah. I've actually been doing a lot of research on solar because I would like to do my own solar array. We've got about 13 acres. So,
Mhm.
I'm thinking, we've got the land to put solar. I mean, we don't have our roof is the ground. So it's
Yeah.
basically going to be a ground system. I've even been thinking about maybe taking some of the metal that I'm taking out of the ceilings here and using that to build my tracks and stuff for the solar systems.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm surprised at, I think anyone that starts looking into solar, I think the first thing that surprises you is how expensive the batteries are. And that's really
Yeah.
the most expensive part of your solar array are your batteries. Solar panels are coming down in price. There's really nice inverters coming down in price. I was looking at one. It's a gigawatt. It's the brand Gigawatt, and
Okay.
they have a $900. It's it's an inverter and a controller built into one. Um, Maybe it does something else. I can't remember. But like basically, all you have to do is um, hook up the solar panels. It does because it's actually it's a higher volt. So it's more. I think it's a 240 instead of like
Hmm.
a 110. So you need a transformer to step it down. Um, uh, but there's some positives to that, like when you have like really heavy draws, when you start at the 240, I've heard that it helps with those kind of heavier draws at the times that you need them. You can hook up the 6 in a series, and all of that is already basically programmed into it. Like you can customize it. So if you have a strange type of battery bank, like Edison batteries or something like that, like you could probably calibrate them to those. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, battery banks are the most expensive part. Solar panels, I mean, are just get cheaper and cheaper. And if you get used ones, I mean, there's some used ones on the market where you can get like a 300-watt um, solar panel that's like at about 80% capacity for $50
Hmm.
used. So I mean, amazingly cheap. But if you want to be able to run your system for an extended amount of time, you're going to spend a lot on batteries. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Batteries is your life. Don't go cheap on those. You want a good. We use 12-volt systems on ours. Everything's a 12-volt system. Our trailer setup is set up for 110. Your normal wall outlet. It runs our TV, speakers, fans, the AC when we need the air condition. It can run a electric heater. Again, that's a big draw one. With our limited battery bank, we're looking 3 hours with that heater at night. So it's something we have to build onto and pull out of storage on that. When you're building your batteries for whoever's watching, make sure you buy the same type of batteries. Don't mix and match them. Don't put a flood acid battery with a gel battery with a whatever type of battery. Make sure they're all the same types of batteries. The reason being, when they charge differently. And you've got them all hooked up, you're going to have batteries failing on you all the time. You do run a fire risk if you start mixing and matching. So stick with everything the same. We have spares for everything. But we don't have an inverter with the charge controller built in. We have charge controllers. We have the inverter. Everything's separate, and it makes it easier for us as preppers to buy a couple extra charge controller, put them in Faraday boxes, an extra inverter. Because, like you said, $900, that's a big pop right off. That's cheap, cheaper than what it used to be, especially for the setup that you're looking at right there. Those are very nice, but you like to have something backing you up. If you got electrical backgrounds, get your extra fuses, diodes, other components that you can rebuild that, or get a spare and put it up. Secure it. They sell Faraday bags. They're supposed to be a lot better than the Faraday do-it-yourself boxes, but those things are pricey too. But when it comes to things that work, they're not cheap. I mean, it's just that's the facts.
did you ever look at the Edison batteries at all?
No, no, I haven't looked at Edison batteries.
So it's an old technology. They weren't invented by Edison, but they were patented by him in the U.S. And there's a lot of downsides to them, but there's a lot of positives to them. So the downsides are that they're big, they're expensive, they're high amps, low volts. So like you need, if you want to do a 12-volt system, you need 10 of them to do a 12-volt system, and 20 to do a 24-volt, and a 40 of them to do a 48-volt system. So they also off gas, so not ideal for a bunker in that sense, unless I think there's ways around it, like you can build a box around them and vent them out. But here's the cool thing about them. It is that they basically will, first of all, they'll last for about 30 years. Oh, they do also require some maintenance. So instead of an acid inside of them, they have an alkaline. And so every once in a while you have to add distilled water to them as they get low. They have they're usually transparent, and they have like a sort of like, don't go above this line, don't go below this line. So you might have to go and add some distilled water. Here's the cool thing about them: because they'll last 30 years, you can run them until they won't provide power anymore. They're very hardy. Like you can overcharge them. You can drain them out. The bad part about it, overcharging them or charging them too fast, is that it will bring you'll have to fill them up with distilled water sooner. But they should be able to handle it otherwise. But then even after 30 years, you can get new material and basically redo the alkaline, and they'll last you another 30 years. So basically people have found old 80, 100-year-old Edison battery, maybe not 100, but 80-year-old. I don't think they were around 100 years. So 80-year-old, 60-year-old Edison batteries, refurbish them and are using them today. So they're basically potentially could last forever if you take good care of them. You can't let the plates. You would destroy the plates if you let the water line get too low on them. But otherwise, they should be able to last forever. So anyway,
I'm gonna have to look at those, because our batteries, I think they have a 7-year life, and with solar, you're only dropping about 10% of your battery before you have your manual you can have a manual shut off. You can program it in your charge controller, and that safeguards it, because when they drop below a certain percent, you're damaging the battery. So, we've got 560 amp hours, but technically we've only got 10% of that that's actually being used during the day and night. Now, during the daytime, we constantly have power coming in, but at nighttime, we're off our battery banks. So I'll take a look at those, because distilled water, even if that's a supply issue, you can distill your own water, and then you automatically have that for that. So I'll definitely take a look at those.
Yeah. Something else I've been looking into, which is kind of interesting, and there's just a few videos on YouTube about it, which is direct from PV water heating.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so you hook up your elements right to the solar panels.
Yeah.
Right. And so the advantage of that is you don't use up your battery bank. And the thing I've been thinking through, which I haven't seen anyone else do, is overheating your hot water tank to let's say 160, 170, right? If your water tank can go up that high. So you overheat it, and then you get a thermal mixing valve, which is just a mechanical valve that when the water comes out of your hot water tank, it'll basically mix it with the right amount of cold water to bring your temperature down to a safe temperature, 120, right? Yeah. And so you can overheat your water while the sun's up, and then if it's insulated well enough, potentially it could stay hot throughout the night enough, because it's so hot. And even if it comes down to 120, you'd be fine, because your mixing valve will still let it go through up until that point, or even below that point. But anyway, that's one of the ideas that I've been playing around with, because I've seen people do the direct from solar panel water heating. But what I haven't seen them do is the overheating and then the step down using a thermal mixing valve. So
Yeah.
anyway,
The theory is definitely sound. I like the idea. The only thing concerning is your storage. You got to make sure it structurally can hold the pressure that's built up from overheating. But as
yeah,
long as you've got that, I
you
don't
need to
see anything
stay.
wrong with that. The theory is really good.
You need to stay within the parameters of your water heater.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
within the structural integrity of it, as
yeah.
long as I mean, if you have some
And
type of reinforcement thing on it,
most
yeah,
of them are rated, so you can look at the rating and say, hey, it should be able, it'll tell you this water heater should be able to handle this temp, up to,
hmm
this amount of temperature. So you should be able to know. I'd probably, go a little bit below that temperature, 10, 20% or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and then test it. Anyway, it's just a theory at this point. It's a future project because I don't have solar
Something you can
panels yet.
also look at is a blow off valve when it reaches when it gets close to that, it automatically blows it out.
Yeah, we do
You're
have a
going to
blow
lose a
off.
lot of your stuff. So,
We do have a blow off valve on our tank. We actually refurbished the tank here
okay.
in the bunker. So it's a copper silicone alloy, which I've never seen. It's like and it's thick. It's like a thick, almost like, I don't know if I want to say cast because I don't know how they made it, but it's not like a thin copper. It's like a thick, like almost, I don't know how thick, but you can tell how thick that it is thick because there's a copper weld around where they put in the element,
hmm
the element threads, and that's a good 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch thick weld on there.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay.
So like the tank itself's got to be thick, and it looks like it's rated to go up to about 225 or 220, maybe something like that. So if I brought it up to 185,
hmm
I think I'd be okay. But that was a whole video series where we talk about making mistakes. We went through lots of mistakes because the elements for this tank were too big for standard elements
hmm
nowadays. Like they were like 50% larger or something like that. So we had to get a bushing to put in, and we kept leaking, and our gaskets wouldn't hold, and we finally got it. We've been good, I think, for about a month now and haven't had any issues.
I'm not going to say it.
And
Look for a
and
piece of wood in there.
one night we were using the old thermostats, and they were the old sort of mechanical type of thermostats, with the thermocouple that has like gas in it. I don't know if you're familiar with those.
No.
Like they got a little bit of gas in them, and anyway, that's how it measures the temperature. Well, I guess one of the wire that's actually a tube. It looks like a wire, but it's actually a tube that has the gas inside of it. It broke, so our thermostat basically broke, and so I got woken up about 12:30 at night, and our blowout valve had gone off. The whole room had been like steamed up and
Yeah.
water gushing out. I mean, it was a little crazy, but
Hopefully you got a nice shop back in there.
yeah, I do. And there's a floor drain, so
Okay.
anyway,
Well, you're good then.
yeah, we're good. But yeah, I updated the thermostat to a more modern thermostat, so now it's working good. All right. Well, I think we've been, about an hour, but why don't you tell people like, where they can find you, in all of your social media, anything else you want to share closing?
All right. Yeah, not a problem there. So we are Survival Living on YouTube. We have a website up, it's cfpguide.com. Basically, I handpick certain videos and categorize everything for outdoor survival, prepping, fire making, things like that. It makes it easier because we've got over 500 videos on YouTube. So trying to go through all those playlists to find a specific one, I know it gets a little aggravating. Our social media, we have Facebook, And we do have Twitter. Those links are on our website. No, not on the website. They're on the YouTube channel. Yeah, they're on the YouTube channel. Some of the branding stuff, it's just, we got late in the game. We started off as Central Florida Prepper when we were in Central Florida, but since we were moving, we changed the channel name. And when I went to go make a website up, they didn't have Survival Living that was cheap, because it was going to cost over $4,000 for the name. I'm like, nope, we're going to be doing outdoor survival videos anyway. We'll go with CFP Guide. So yeah, we started that about 2 months ago, I believe it was. It's doing fairly well. I kept all the advertisement off of it, so that's an advertisement-free website. You don't have to worry about pop-ups and stuff like that. That's annoying. But yeah, I mean, that's it, guys. Hopefully, everybody starts prepping, or start looking into ideas of prepping. Prep is not that difficult. Start storing up food, water containment systems, rain catchers, things like that. But make sure you have a way of purifying water. Even the cheaper water filters still provide you protection against bacteria. Now, there's other filters and stuff. You can get the radioactive stuff, protectant, and all viruses and stuff like that. You can get those protections. They're going to cost you more. We've been called a budget prepper many times by many different channels. Well, maybe because I'm on a budget, just like everybody else. I'm not Rockefeller. I don't have a lot of money. I work multiple jobs. We put money in towards our preps and our end goal of homesteading. So yeah, I mean, we're just like everybody else. We're trying to make it paycheck by paycheck sometimes. It happens. But we still strive to move forward. We don't sit back in the back going, well, I wish this would have happened. Nothing's going to happen if you're doing that. So that's what I got for you.
All right. Yeah, I would highly recommend people go check out his YouTube channel. There's a lot of really great, just little tips. Like if you want, you want to know how to start a fire, you want to know how, live in your if you had to live in your SUV. I mean, there's just, from pretty much A to Z, you can probably find something, and he's always adding more stuff. So it's a great channel. If you want to think about, hey, like maybe, and again, it's not so, you don't have to be someone who expects the end of the world coming. Like you can just be someone who's like, you know what, I think personally, so when we moved into our bunker, we didn't have running water, we didn't have a working toilet, and we were using a compost toilet. And at first my kids were like, I don't know, Dad, about this whole no working toilet. After a few days, they were fine. And in fact, my son came in and said, I feel actually pretty good about being able to face anything. Like if I had to poop in a compost toilet in the future, I had to deal with compost and stuff like that. Like I could do that. Like if I had to, rough it and, I didn't have a job or something, like, I think in a lot of ways it builds confidence when you know that you have options, right? And you don't have to be worried about stuff because you know that you'll be okay. You can figure it out. So, I highly recommend go check out his stuff. It's really for anyone who wants to think about the future and what potentially could happen, and or also just to have fun. If you like outdoors, there's a lot of great outdoors tips there. If you just want to do more camping and and things like that as well. So awesome. Thanks so much, Joseph, for joining us and getting to know you. It was a lot of fun.
I definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on.